guys, welcome. So this is actually meant to be Meta Thursdays, but we're on Friday. And that's because in the metaverse, time and space warp. So we're actually in a time known as the 3D. And this is my brother Bend, a man, boy, human I've known for my, yes, entire life, because you came out a few months before me. Our parents were friends, and we've lived together a few times. This man is also the godchild of my son. So it's not just because of that. He has some relevance to crypto and metaverse, but also give him a big paycheck because of his position in my life. And yeah, tell us a bit about your work at the moment with your academia, metaverse, urbanization, and why you deserve to be here.
Yeah, so I'm purely studying urban design, which is really nothing to do with urban design, but very much to do with urban. It's urban critical theory. It's urban studies. So deep in the city, what is the city? And that's fantastic because it brings together economy, sociology, ethnography, everything cultural, agglomeration, built environment, large projects, politics, governance, all these wonderful things.
Yes.
That's rich. And I really love the sort of Renaissance aspect of it, Renaissance man aspect of it that it entails. Yeah, and then we have here, I don't know how to phrase it anymore. The realm's getting bigger. The field is massive, but crypto, NFTs, metaverse, crypto gaming, smart contracts, all this sort of stuff that is becoming more and more relevant and breaking more and more into the mainstream. So I try to span both of those in research and come up with fascinating, interesting results.
Awesome. Yes, I'm so happy that our friendship now is existing here. And I mean, to be honest, we didn't speak that much. We'd have like months and months between catching up. It'll be something like your wedding or someone's birth or death that we'd go like, oh, but we better tune in with each other. But now we are chatting like not every day. Actually, no, most days we'll at least send a message to each other because we're watching the stocks. We've got, the idea of the gala as well. Let's talk about gala games in a moment, running nodes. We're mutually financially entwined now, irrevocably. And we're also just learning, there's so much. I think that it's a continual learning journey. So to be sharing that with your friends, like you make new crypto friends, but for like old real world friends to actually have this common passion and for it to actually strengthen friendship. Is there anything that crypto cannot do? I haven't found it yet. I have not found
Bringing people together.
So good. So yeah, all of that stuff you said, definitely it's an alignment of all these things: urbanization, sociology, psychology, economy, all the economies, monopoly. And we are looking at kind of different areas, but mutually beneficial. I think that the common thread is we love building worlds. Now, whether that world be something in the physical world, whether it be about community and culture, whether it be about modeling, like we've got here a castle on the screen in between us. Ding, ding, this way. Dong, dong, dong. This is from a Gala Games game, which I don't know that much about. But tell me about your current research into Gala Games. What's the town game? I haven't played that one yet. What's the town game?
Townstar.
Townstar. So we've got Townstar.
Yes.
We've got this one. Do you know the name of this game? The Meridian. Begins with M.
Mirandus.
So yeah, tell me a bit about Gala Games, because also the difference is often when these blockchain games come out, they're a single IP. They're a single franchise, and like Illuvium or Star Atlas. But Gala Games are going about differently, where they're more like an actual production house, which can pump out all kinds of different games. I assume there's an economic connection between them. And then I guess running a node in Gala Games is essentially running the backbone of an entire, it's like running a music label or something. There can all these different artists that can be released. So yeah, tell us a bit about Gala.
Yeah, nice. So Gala Games, yeah, it is trying to be a platform. It does produce its own games. It develops its own games. It also, I think the best way to say it outsources. It brings other games in from other developers, but works closely with them to create the right tokenomics, the right sort of crypto gaming experience. This is very important because they're curating a space, and you don't want to have two Townstars or two, fantasy role-playing game sort of thing. So they do a good job of that. They're strong on a DAO situation. They do put out votes to the founding nodes, and literally they don't give you just like a oh, would you like, this in cornflower blue or yellow or something? It's like, do you like this game? Should we include it in our thing? And we all vote. I am a node owner. I have one founder's node. Yeah, we all vote.
Founders node. Oh,
And
that's a good sound. That's like Genesis block. That's like
you're
originator.
right.
It's kind of like God DNA. I do have some God DNA. Look, we call it Titan DNA, but it's the same thing.
It's a little bit like that. It comes with the community and chat and like good things. They're selling out fast and the price is now ridiculous.
Sell from
So,
stage. Tell me why I should buy a Gala node. Look, I make
wow.
debit a week, and it used to do it. Now it's only 31K.
It ramped up quick. My entrance was when it was already high, and I seemed to manage to make sense of it in time for me to invest just before it probably got out of my price range, to be quite honest. I saw the potential. It made sense to me. I was early and new too, like in my crypto gaming, crypto and NFT experiences and knowledge. And you were found fundamental in me grasping that enough to make the correct decision. And it's and in the last like 3 days, I think Gala has like surged and made me very happy, made everybody really happy.
It was a very rare, because there was obviously this massive drop off over the last week, and I was looking at the ones I'm following, and it was the single. I think it was maybe two coins that I'm following that were green, and everything else was red, and Gala was one of them. So it's
And
very
in Gala,
nice.
they went crazy. And I was looking at my Binance app and I was like, percentage, there's 118% next to Gala. It's like, it's the best news ever. I've never seen 100 on there before.
It's crypto is this
That
part of the
happened.
world when traditional bankers are like, yes, 10%, 20%, and we go up into hundreds or sometimes even thousands when it gets silly. But yeah, really exciting. And so the thing that I'm feeling is that, as a game designer, I look at the different types of games that appeal to different people. You've got Bartle's player types, which is like, are you a killer? You just want to go out there and compete against people and do the best in the game and interact with other players. Are you an achiever? In which case you're more interested in the world, not so much about other people. If you're by yourself in a game, you're happy as long as you're taking action. You've got the socializer. They're wanting to interact with people, and they're all about, what would it be? It would be people, and I'm just looking at the axes in my mind. It'd be taking action with people, and then the explorer is more about the world, and having an experience, essentially. So when I look at something like Gala Games, it's starting to tick a bunch of the boxes. Like, some people want to be more the technical infrastructure things. Other people might want to be more like town planning and where buildings go, and more the strategy kind of game person. Another person might just wanting to be go and tick all the boxes, play all of the games. Like, I'm a Gala fanatic. I'm just going to play all the games, rack up all the stats and the money. Other people might be really like the game itself, not worried so much about those other aspects, and really just like playing and winning and beating people. So that's the thing that I think makes sense when you get into a big wheelhouse of all types of games. And when you've got a technology where you can be involved at so many levels, the strategic, the full on just playing, you can explore the worlds, you can kick other people's asses. So yeah, well played, Gala.
The curation is definitely there, and they're definitely spread it across many of those, everything you said. Do send me that graph, because I could probably use that in my research. Yeah, so like I'm playing Townstar at the moment because it's the first game that's come out basically in beta. Like, you can get a Miranda's if you buy an exemplar and jump in there and start earning Materium, which is the Miranda's coin. But Townstar has Town Coin, and yes, you can play for free if you have two NFTs and are at level 2. I believe you can. Oh no, you don't have to be level 2. But if you have two NFTs, you can start doing play to earn. Otherwise, you're sort of just competing in the weekly competitions to like try and get in the top 400 or something. But without that, you can play in the monthly, where you really build a nice town and you can get play to earn very easy. Once you set up your town, you can put it on in the background as you do something or listen to a podcast or something, and in 10 minutes or so, you can finish and you get your your town coin. So I
Do
mean,
you know
I'm
what
a
town coins worth at the moment, like as in relation to
mate,
USD or
a
even
month
Gala?
ago it was worth about 13 cents, and now it's gone down a bit, I think, but it was 86 cents at one stage. I think it broke the dollar. It broke the dollar. We had a dollar town coin for a minute there.
Wow,
Um,
nice.
that's ridiculous. But there's the people who set things up, they've got a lot of NFTs in there, and they've got some Voxes in there, which is its own thing. Voxes just give you town coin every time you play, but they literally make about 1,500 town coin a day. And you can, I mean, even now that's like $1,000. So you go on, you open up town coin, it's all sweet. You click some things, you ship something, and you're like,
Work done.
That's it. I'll
It's
buy some Jimmy
it's
Choos for my
almost
girlfriend.
offensive. Like I'm almost offended at how lucky we are to be early in this technology. And of course, we missed the Bitcoin boat and things like that. But metaverse, real estate is so big. When you look at the real IRL, we look at the real world economies. What's one of the key things? As safe as houses. Like, and sure, there's been bubbles and there's been drops and that sort of thing. But still, I mean, when it comes down to the animal of ourselves, if you've got land, if you can grow your food, if you can house your animal body in something while you sleep, you're good. That's like basic. I don't care what people think of it. They think it's valuable. That's valuable. That's got inherent, undeniable value. And so when you look at the metaverse being this, and then we can talk about digital twin cities, what's it like to have this mimicked, echo, holographic version of something that we live in? It's undeniable that, of course, real estate is always going to be important. And we look at urbanization, you look at megatropolises, one city merging with another. The same thing can happen in the metaverse. And absolutely, adoption, Metcalfe's law of network effect is so important. Where are the people? Facebook was so big because everyone went there. And similar with Sandbox, with Decentraland, these things are big because people are going there. So undeniably that those things are valuable. I could just set up one up today and just call it Landyland, and it won't be worth anything. But when Sandbox is overdeveloped, and right now it's not, I think it's a really great position for creators to be able to leverage their contribution through imagination. Because if you're a big whale and you've bought some land in Sandbox right now, or Decentraland, like it might just be a dead ghost town. And so we have this second layer of potential to access that, where you can go along and if you're a community developer, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you're whatever you are, psychologist, masseuse, I don't care what you do, can you bring that to the metaverse, and then you start to have access to these lands. And so we're still early in Sandbox and Decentraland. However, at the point where they become oversaturated, if you've put in the groundwork of building your own little land space, I'm going to say you could be a very attractive merging partner to merge the metropolises, whether it be they expand their land, but I think there's some value in scarcity, like to claim your map and just not have it. It's like Bitcoin, of course, there's X amount and we won't go further than there, and that proves the scarcity, thus the value. So I don't think that these places that have a finite map will just add on forever. But of course, the huge thing with NFTs is interoperability, one of the core fundamental characteristics of it. So as long as you're building it according to protocol and you're building your land, like you could literally be a Newfoundlander. It's like being, and hopefully we're less colonial and like slavey than Christopher Columbus, but you can literally do that. This is unclaimed, Terra Nova, new lands. And so I think that's really where we're at. And I think that's a key part of NFTs. Like at the moment, they're collectible art, but it would be like saying the only use for wood is to make a frame for a painting. That's in my mind saying like the only use for an NFT is to do a painting, a picture. It's cute and it's totally uninformed, and it's really just simply about having the potential for scarcity and the potential for ownership. And yeah, they're not necessarily like the best qualities of human beings to own things. And yet it's undeniable that our economy is based on the fact that you want this car, you can have this car. Would you pay more to have the car? Or if I said you can just drive in my car every day, would you be just as happy? No, there's some part of human beings like, I want the car, I want the house, I want the safety and a little bit of ego flex, and I want to be able to paint the wall how I want. So that quality of the real world is now being brought to digital for the first time in a large scale. And that's what NFTs are. And that's why I think that land, real estate, or some people call surreal estate, or whatever you term frame it, virtual land is just, it's the thing.
It's a fascinating premise, and you brought up a lot of good points there. I mean, the token is a token. It has a face. Every token has a face, but there's utility and there's culture attached to it. If you pull out, I'm in Europe, we've got 500 euro notes. If you pull out a 500 euro note at a cafe to pay for your coffee, it's a flex, or it's something, or it's annoying, like whatever it is. It has an effect.
So my abundance is really annoying. I mean, having to break these 500 euro notes constantly. Don't you know what I mean? Fuck that.
In Germany, if you say danke, if you say thank you at the wrong time, it means keep the change. If you hand a note and be like danke, that actually means keep the change.
Timing.
I've lost a lot of money, especially when I was new here. But anyway, it's another story.
And then being so polite that you can't. I
can't
ask for it back now. I said the word danke.
They're like 13 tip. They're just like, oh, danke. They thank me back, and I'm not going to be like, oh, I didn't mean it. I'm not going to be that kind. No, look.
Uh,
Land on in the metaverse is a fascinating premise. It's all the things that you said. I think one interesting thing that like tweaked me right now is like, yes, and in real life, we do need we need to be a citizen of a city. You need to live in it, and we do need to live in a house. But in the metaverse, you don't. You don't actually need a house to live in the metaverse. And this is a fascinating premise. What if there was a metaverse where you to exist in it, you had to own property? First up, that would be
hello.
this would
I
be
like
the
this.
requirement. The requirement. So then you are a citizen of Landyland, and I think Landyland's got legs, by the way. I think it's going to go far. But you're then a citizen of Landyland. But then is there rental? If you have two properties, then you exist and
This
you can.
this is an important point. At what point do we stop importing real world qualities or characteristics to the metaverse? Because at the moment it's benefiting hugely by having scarcity and ownership, which is a real world quality. And I like what you're saying, like these Tamagotchi kind of styles, like your NFT will get hungry and die if you don't have a home to put it in or if you don't feed it. And you've got composable NFTs as well under a different protocol whereby certain NFTs can hold things like food and that can actually be used or refilled and that sort of thing. So it does exist in the technology, but
I think it will get more complicated and it will work like that. But I mean, we talked about just opening up more land. That breaks the trust in something like that. And the sandbox game is like, it's big right now, but even Facebook's fading a little bit. I thought Facebook will never be able to get knocked off, and now I've been going through Instagram, and now I'm somewhere else now. But these things can fade, and I think the metaverse may do it 10 times as quickly than what social media did, just as it is developing. So
true, it's this living, it's a living organism. I think that, and that's the thing I love about Europe as well over the countries I've grown up in. So I've grown up mainly a tri-nation baby, so New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. And particularly when it comes to, I'd say all of them really, they were recently taken over by in different colonies. I mean British, but also Dutch. And so they don't have the heritage of a Western developed rise and fall of an empire. I'm sure there'll be many tribal takeovers and different indigenous kind of cultural significant milestones that happened, like in any kind of culture. But from the current ruling Western developed perspective, the buildings you're seeing were from one iteration of an empire. Whereas in Europe, this king got dethroned or had the head cut off, and there's like ancient relics underneath the ground, which we once thought were these buildings that will always be there because they're put there by the gods, and now they're nothing, they're dust. And so there's this humility that comes in Europe where you understand that things do fall and that sometimes currencies are now just jewelry and we don't trade that anymore. We've moved on. Whereas there's a naivety in New Zealand and Australia that we think that this, of course, we're always going to have democracy. Of course, we're always going to be able to go to the bank and get our money out,
We've not yet seen the fall of civilization, so to speak. We've not yet seen our demise, and we don't have the lens to reflect on that. It's a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary because we're all running blindly through the city, so to speak.
And you're saying that, which I totally agree with, is that potentially the iteration of those cycles could happen in a sped up nature in the metaverse. So you'll have something rise to power.
In the metaverse, I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And then something like Sandbox, which seems like, the king's or queen's castle is now, actually, we don't do that anymore. We're all over in this sort of place.
Is the internet forgiving for like, you were first. That's so great. Like AOL, MySpace. You were first. We're going to stay on you. It's like, no way. Bye. On to the next thing. It's very unforgiving. So
yeah,
it does worry me.
We don't know the value. This is the thing. It's like if there was something, for example, like CryptoPunks, right? They were pre-NFTs. Like the protocol that they're based on was even before all the ERC tokens and all those sort of things that are the current protocol for our currently marketed, traded NFT form.
Nice.
And so looking at their value, it's because in hindsight we can go back. Same thing with the ENS, these Ethereum name server email addresses or domain names that people bought. You didn't know at the time that they were going to do these airdrops and they were going to decentralize and you're going to have all this wealth attributed to what you had last year or the year before. So who knows, like MySpace, maybe that's going to have a resurgence in the metaverse. It's all about just showing up. You can't always do a strategic plan of like, this is the hot thing, so I'm going to invest in it. It's just being around. And you might inadvertently get a stack of coins because you're playing some random game and they just gave you 1,000 for signing up. This is the kind of thing that I think time in the game, as they say, time in the market beats timing the market. It's the same thing with Metaverse. It's like being around, showing up. Who knows? Like I'm playing Blanco's Block Party at the moment, which is a play-to-earn game, and they haven't sort of decentralized or done airdrops of their coins and all that kind of things. And a friend of mine was saying it's good to get into these things because there is this trend now, and you just don't know the avatar that you've been given, like exactly what value it's going to have in the future. You are right, we are unforgiving because we're moving forward so quickly. So AOL and MySpace, they're kind of like, what is that? But we just don't know how it's going to come back. And we can always, like for example, NBA Top Shots, right? Perfect example. Back in the 90s, whenever all these amazing games and Michael Jordan, all that sort of playing, they had no idea that in 2021, they were going to be sold as NBA Top Shot NFTs with a little snippet of video of them shooting hoops. We just don't know how these relics are. And we're kind of being, it's like someone walking through some ancient Greece temple with like an elixir or something, like, oh, everyone has these elixirs, they're so boring. But it's like we don't know the archaeological dig that's going to happen in the future. I think by simply being here and participating, you're going to naturally have the gold dust settle on your shoulders.
I think so. And this is a psychology that goes around. It's something I'm focusing on too, actually, in my research, the socio-psychological thing. It's like like a company like Gala's very good and well constructed, but let's call it any company. They will release something and they'll sprinkle it out there, and everyone's like, they'll grab it and they'll hold it. They're like, oh, this is going to be something at some point. What that actually generates isn't like discernment of like, is this something that I want in my life? Is this something that is going to help me and build? It's a faith. It's a belief. We're constructing religion here through almost like rewarded blind faith. And I think when we talk about communities, this is a really interesting point.
I think that what you've touched on there is in game design, we'll call it extrinsic versus intrinsic value and rewards. And so at the moment, there's all sorts of extrinsic value. It's like the tokens are dropping. We're giving you a free NFT airdrop because you own one of these, so we're getting another one. And we're like, I imagine like fish, when you sprinkle breadcrumbs and we're like, it's like whatever you drop in the water, I'm going to gobble it, because we're not an informed population yet, because we haven't even formed the tenets of what this cult or this crypto cult is actually forming.
Look at Gala, like this is the case in point, like Gala Games, they have Citadel of the Wind up as an NFT in Mirandas. It costs $6 million US. $6 million. And all it has is this beautiful 3D render, great. And then a small line about, you can be the king of the Citadel and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. There's no promise. There's no like, here's how much you'll earn, here's how much space it is. There's a bit more to it. It's like there's a plan, or there was at one stage. There's not much information yet. Someone is going to drop 6 million on this thing. So yeah, I reflect, do we want to be these goldfish? Is there a way to circumvent this?
Well, I think at the moment, and my approach, everyone that watches this channel would know how bullish I am on NFTs. I love them, I make them, I talk about them, and I consult for people to bring their brands across to them. And yet, my energy at the moment is actually going more into DeFi, because I want to now see what functionality, what intrinsic values are these things going to have. You've got to actually back up your roadmap of saying, if you own this NFT, you're going to be able to unlock this avatar, or this avatar is actually going to be able to play a game, or this game is going to have real world real estate, or owning this real estate means you can have some other NFT come and, rent your land. All these sort of functional things. These are being just like handed out like this, promise. And at the moment, I'm not getting any intrinsic value. I hope, I can look in my MetaMask wallet or my OpenSea account and look at them from time to time, but they're actually not doing anything. And the intrinsic value simply means internally, I get a sense of my power, my impact, my capability improving. I feel better about myself. I'm learning also, my intelligence is growing, and I have agency in the world. And that intrinsic value is not yet connected to the extrinsic value of like, you've got the gold star, you've got things stacking in your under your mattress, but they're not doing anything yet. And I think that is the key gameplay transition we need to make. And so at the moment, I'm waiting to see which companies or products and projects are actually going to deliver that. And at that stage, for sure, it's going to be like parabolic, because those ones that are suddenly going to have so much more value. And unfortunately, this is the thing, like the WAGMI idea, we're all going to make it. It's also got to obey the idea of up and down. So it's like any trade you make. If you're making heaps of money, someone's losing heaps of money. So that's an part of the market. So like with these NFT projects, when those blue chips start to blossom in the field, there are going to be a bunch of other flowers that wilts because we go, well, you're not doing what they're doing, or we've looked at you for the last 6 months, you haven't delivered any of your roadmap. So yeah, I think that's going to be the thing that we'll say, is it actually worth 6 million? And it will be worth 6 million. Like, it's like, would you buy a city block for $6 million in the real world? Like, of course. Would you buy even a town, a skyscraper or a castle for 6 million? Yes, I would. So these things, it's not like we're laughing at the fact that it's worth so much. It's just saying so early on, it's like people selling off the blueprint of a bunch of cities, but everyone is coming with blueprints, and we're like, are you all going to be able to build an entire metropolis?
I mean, yeah, it is that. I've got no doubt that it will return these citadels, but it's like in Gala we trust. It's like, that's just trust. That's just it. But I really like how you framed that all, because I find the real gold, like you said, I can look at my NFTs. Anyone can actually look at your NFTs if I go to your wallet. So you have not sort of cashed in on the utility. Yes, you have the utility that you can sell it, but there's got to be more utility than just that. And I feel like that concept, that's the innovation that needs to occur, whatever that is. And this sort of takes me back to good old, urban design and stuff, like Marx and labor and stuff. You talk about labor all the time in the city and how this affects things. It's very economical. And this exists in the metaverse. It exists with NFTs, but not cleanly. It's in its baby incremental stages, and it's like, how does that work? Some people call, like, when you're playing the game, that's your labor, but actually the playing of the game, unless they like said, it isn't labor. And it's actually not even, like, when you send, watch ads or something, it's actually not actually labor unless you buy, and then that would be a transaction, but it's not the production of labor. And it's a fascinating little thing, because I haven't seen a good representation of people linking an actual genuine labor process as
this is huge,
as digital as it could be, up to any value, any token, any value.
I'd love to
apart from watching advertising, apart from watching advertising or giving your attention to something, or I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
No, it's just a huge point you just made. So I just wanted to, before we moved on, just really take it up for a second, this idea of it's not labor, because, as a pro video game person, immediately I was like, yeah, it is labor because they're doing something. And, Axie Infinity is a good example of people. But and then I paused myself because I respect you. I was like, cool, let's feel into that. What's he saying? He's not labor. And I really felt the immediate truth in the fact that it's not doing, like, if you're in, the real world, and let's probably get a better name for the real world because it's all real, but if you're going to actually pick a cherry and send it somewhere, that's actually labor because it's doing a function. It's actually changing the economy, and it's something that actually shifts the mechanics of society. Whereas if you're just playing a game, you're in your own internal process and it's changing you, but it's not dropping down into a mechanics that's eliciting some kind of economic benefit, other than the fact that other people can put more money in. And this is the thing, that's why people sometimes say, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme, because you're only making money because you can convince other people to put their money in. But the difference with the infrastructure, and in this case you're talking about labor, is that you're taking an action which actually runs the system and the machine, which is why I think owning a node is different, because you're doing the heavy lifting of the computational power to have these things exist. And so I think this is a great challenge to game designers out there. If you're watching, how can the functionality of your game, it's like having a hydro-powered something where the waves go up and down, but we leverage that activity and we can actually get electricity from it. How can you directly leverage, apart from interest in people putting money in, how as a game designer can we have the gameplay mechanic link directly to productivity, whether it be metaverse or through IoT, maybe into the physical world as well? And that's a huge challenge, which also I'm not directly sure about if a game designer has got that kind of labor in the gameplay yet.
It would be interesting. I mean, trading is not labor, obviously, and usury, putting money in and making more of it or whatever, is also not labor. But there are sort of things in the city that you can talk about, like when you build a bridge over the harbor and suddenly you don't have to put all the apples in a boat and send it over and grab the apples again, and you've made that process cheaper. You've then expedited that, and one could use the analogy of like layer two coins or layer two networks, that this now reduces the gas fees down to potentially zero, and you've now made an incredible leap within that environment. But it doesn't leave that environment so much. It does actually, because let's say immutable X, zero gas. Okay, cool. Let's say that gets adopted and it disrupts actual currency. Then we've made it really good, because at the moment there are things that slow down currency in a city or in society, because it is physical, or it requires banks, or it's centralized and all this sort of stuff. That would have a change.
The thing that I also love about decentralization is that what made me think there is are things happening in the background we're not aware of. So with the usual intermediaries of like a financial advisor, or just having to go through a centralized bank for money to happen, as a human being that's just a citizen, we're not aware of all the productivity that our activities are having. So putting money in, we might get, whatever, 4%, 10% back, but actually, maybe 50% is being made on top of our money. So I think the thing that decentralization does is it actually exposes all the mechanics, and we've got to really reconceptualize what is valuable, what's contributing. And we're starting, it's like kind of like opening up the hood of the car, or opening up a panel in an engine room. It's like, whoa, all that was going on, and you were keeping me safe from it, aka I wasn't benefiting from all the productivity and activity that's happening due to my behavior and my actions. And I think that's the interesting thing about the interoperability as well, is that what are the actions that is necessarily happening in your project that other people can now get exposure to? And what are the inherent transactions or aggregation of value or shifting in a product that's happening behind the scenes in a centralized thing that we can actually start to bring? And there is a responsibility that comes with that. Like running a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, having a governance token, we've actually got to educate ourselves. Oh shit, I've got more of a leverage on the wheel now. I think we like to attribute value to our, our celebrities, our politicians, our experts, our doctors, the people that are meant to be, well informed. But when we decentralize, we can, if we do this on the steering wheel, the car might go off the cliff. So I think that there's this inherent responsibility.
Frontier zone, and I love that. I love that about it. And it is scary. And you do a transaction and it takes longer than it normally does, and you're like, I've ruined my family. I've ruined, it's gut wrenching, and it's wonderful.
Your experience, because I was there with your very first crypto kind of transaction, and because I won't go into any kind of details, but you decided to go P2P instead of doing like the other on-ramp. And I remember that moment. So peer-to-peer basically means, you have to buy it of someone else. And you put a chunk through, and it took way too, it was like days. Because I'm used to I just go through my card. I'm like on-ramp, plink, and it's in my wallet. Cool. And you're like, it's been 2 days.
It was like 5 days in the end. And but the things like the German bank called me up and like, you put this thing through, and I was like, yeah. And okay. And then I talked to the guy, and he's like, I haven't got it yet. And I was like, this is all fake. My buddy let me down. But it worked out.
And suddenly I'm doing Instagram shots of like, new car. But I think that the interesting thing as well, talking about the gatekeepers of the old world, they don't like money going into crypto. It's like, do you really want to put X amount of dollars from here into there? It's this and I think this whole thing of like, it's my money, I get to do that if I want to. We've got to finally take the hat back off daddy and say, I'm going to wear this now. I can actually wear this for myself. And that's a whole cultural shift that responsibility has. And just saying, politicians or big bankers and this and that, you don't any longer have the right to own the things that I've produced myself. And also, if you're not doing your job correctly, we've got enough technology and communication potential that we're going to do that function that you're meant to be doing. We're going to do it over here, and all those benefits that you've got in your pockets, we're actually going to see how much you're, not telling us about under the table, and we're going to do this transparently. So it's just like there's no competition. There's no decentralized. They just can't.
It's a democratic process. We're taking back the establishment of funds, but in doing that, we're seeing just how limiting that whole system was, just how boring, just how a bit of a trap it was. People are really, experiencing this and seeing it. I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a great guy in tech, has a lot of Tesla stocks and a lot of, AI stocks and stuff. And I was telling him about crypto. Are you into it? He's like, no, I'm a value investor, So as a value investor, I really look for a company that, he gave me this spiel. I was like, okay, cool. But I took it on. I was like, value. Yeah, okay. There's so much value in this crypto role and all this sort of stuff. So I didn't mention it to him, but it's there, and it started me thinking. But one could have like, well, we're talking about labor. One could have labor coin. If you can peg a coin to labor somehow, maybe you've got a company, or it invests in something that is very stable, that allows people to get paid out and labor to happen. If you pegged it to labor, I wonder what that would feel like. I wonder what that would do as a coin. I wonder what that would look like. I wonder if that's a stable coin or if it's something that fluctuates. I wonder if this is the key to opening up the field where we directly, have sort of labor.
That's huge. I love this idea of it being linked directly to actual. Yeah, it's not based on investment. It's based on an external metric. You go through an oracle or whatever it is, and you get things that are changing in the real world. I love the idea of like a nature coin where it's like, and I'm not going to go into the big climate debate, but imagine it was like air quality. And the better the air quality, the more value of the coin. And all of a sudden there would be this like need, let's go and clear. I've got investment. Even if I go out there and like get less of that shit in the air, my money is going to go up. And it's press button and it's appealing to our greed. But like, let's rock with that. Like if people are greedy, let's use their greed to make the world a better place. So I love this idea. It could be labor, it could be happiness index. Like, and of course, then it comes down to, well, how accurate is your sensor that is, collecting this information, and how reliable is the oracle?
You incentivize people to be dishonest to raise their money, but incentivization is one of the biggest words in this industry. We are incentivized to do all the actions that we're doing. Some people come in directly for financial profit, of course. NFTs, art, cool culture, yeah, boom. Community. I am in it for community now. The more I refine my sensory devices, I'm like, I can make money everywhere, but like I'm really looking forward to something that's meaningful. I want something that I believe in, that's going to be a long future. I want something I can really like feel good about. In the end, when we're all billionaires, I want to feel good more than be a billionaire, and it's really about that. Yeah, odd, but incentivization. The smart contracts can tweak incentivization to a very specific degree. We can. I mean, if you look at a Discord and all the things they make you do to get on a whitelist, if that's not telltale of what can happen, then then nothing is. We can really have people laying bricks. We can have people repairing roads, stroking budgerigars. Like pick your crazy antic, and you can make people do it with crypto somehow.
I'm so glad you brought the budgerigar thing up. I haven't wanted to. I mean, obviously it's been at the back of my mind this whole time.
It's a pressing issue.
The number of unstroked budgerigars
is rising, and it's no joke. It's an epidemic.
Well, I'm having a look where I've got a meeting that I think we need to go to shortly, so I might wrap up, and let's give ourselves 5 minutes to come back around. And also for those of you who've enjoyed our chats, we're going to be going live weekly. Usually on Meta Thursdays, and we'll be talking about urbanization, architecture, societies in general, building, value, economics, and looking at real estate in the metaverse and how we can actually be builders, town builders, and townsfolk of a truly functional, this like labor-driven, value-driven economy where there's actual functionality, there's community. So that's going to be our general bag each Thursday. So hopefully you're enjoying it. I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's so good, so rich. And I guess in closing, is there just a little drop in the water, which we can think about until next week? Are there any things that you love in your studies to do with urbanization, architecture, production, development in that space, that even if you don't know how it correlates to the metaverse yet, that are really important parts of your study to do with building and urbanization that we maybe can start to think of, and what the analogy with or correlation would be to a metaverse built city?
Interesting. Yeah. So at the moment, like I'm thinking of metaverse cities like clones of the city, a clone of New York, and what that would mean to a city, but people would stake and invest, and if they did. And what comes up again and again is citizenship. You're a citizen of a countries, but like in the past, citizen of a country is a very recent thing, by the way. Citizen of a city, much more established thing historically. So a citizen of a city, it means something, and it comes with utility. Perhaps it comes with tax. It comes with protection and safety. It came with many things. If you got banished, it was near death because you'd probably die outside the city walls.
Wow.
So when we talk about citizenship, is that an NFT that we own, that we can trade, that we can had, or is it just installed onto us and we cannot leave it? And what utility, protections, aids, helps do we get? There's got to be a DAO out there for a city, and there's got to be, you know, big rewards and governance of the own token. Maybe that token can be used in the city. I like citizenship, and I'm really pushing this concept and exploring it.
Yes, thank you. Such a great thing to leave on. It's so huge. I feel like you just opened the door to a whole line of research and conversation there. Thank you, brother. This was a maiden voyage together, our inaugural Meta Thursdays on Friday, because we warp time like that. Thanks for joining those who are doing it, watching us live, and for those in the replay, please get involved in the Crypto Collective Discord and ask questions there, because we do have we've actually got a Metaverse channel there as well. So let's get geeky, let's build cities, let's establish what true citizenship means in the Metaverse, and let's make it better. Let's make it, because we're intentionally setting the groundwork here. Many of us were born into a certain city or society with certain citizenships that we inherited unwittingly. And so I think it's so important to look at the true values of what it means to belong, to contribute, and also to have freedom, sovereignty, all these sort of things, and value. And let's make our new citizenships a true indication of our humanity and the collective power when we come together.
Amen.
Amen. Love you, brother. Chat soon.
Love you, brother.
Bye.